Hello, lovelies. I did mention in my stories that I would come on live and just talk about this interlude that's happening with me. And I get asked quite often, how did I know that I had cancer? What was the sort of red flags and all of that stuff? So very briefly and very quickly, in May, I found out that I had bowel cancer, and on the 6th of June I had it removed. I had most of my colon removed and the cancer along with it, fingers crossed, hopefully. So a lot of people have asked me, how did you find out, how did you know? And I really want to share this because I left it. I didn't listen to my body as much as, I listened to my body when I really was pushed to, and I should have done something sooner, right? But in hindsight, of course we all would, but I just wanted to speak about this because I think it's so important. And that is because I just kept seeing all the symptoms I was having everywhere over social media. So I was just putting it down to that. And not to say that I, don't have symptoms for other things, but I really did just put it down to, I'm fatigued. I was probably adrenal fatigue. I'm probably menopausal or perimenopausal. I've got heart palpitations again, probably something to do with exerting myself and, all of that stuff. Shortness of breath, probably a bit of asthma, brain fog, probably burnout. I really put it down to all these things. Sore gut, put it down to food intolerance. So when I was really young, back in the day when I think most people got diagnosed with irritable bowel, I did get diagnosed with that. And so just throughout my life, I've just put it down to I've got irritable bowel. So having said that, let's go back to why I went to the doctors. So I was having heart palpitations continuously, and it wouldn't just be like 5-minute sort of thing. It was about 30 minutes of heart palpitations to the point of, I was very close to calling the ambulance a number of times. And I didn't, because part of my brain was saying, you're having a panic attack. And the other half was saying, you're having an irregular heartbeat. The thing with it was I could hear it in my ears. So I could hear the beating in my ears, which really was really quite scary when you hear that it's an irregular heartbeat. So that kind of triggered me into, wondering what was going on there. But also I was so of the mindset that I was having a panic attack rather than it physically sort of coming out of nowhere, out of the blue. And that just kept on happening night after night, and it happened at like 3 o'clock in the morning, so it wasn't as if I could rush to the doctors or to the hospital, quite so freely as you would if maybe it was happening in the afternoon or in the daytime. So that kept on happening over time, and it was actually when I was on my way to work. I was on the train and it happened again, and this particular day I was having an interview. And I did wonder and think, is it anxiety that's causing it? Turns out it wasn't. So I got to work, immediately phoned and made an appointment with the doctor. Now this doctor I haven't ever seen because she's usually fully booked, because that's kind of how good she is. And so she was the only doctor that had an appointment available for that day at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So I went to go and see her. She ordered me to go have blood tests and an ECG. ECG came back perfectly fine, obviously, because nothing was happening at that time. So I kind of felt a little bit better in the sense of, well, I know I'm not going to die, right? Because then I had this irrational, well, I don't even think it's irrational, but this fear happened that when I was having those irregular heartbeats, that I was going to die. Like that was literally what was taking over, which was then obviously perpetuating the irregular heartbeat. So with that, I came away feeling a bit better that nothing was happening to my heart this whole time, like consistently. So then I, carried on, and the following sort of couple of days, I got notes saying, yeah, thyroid's fine, liver's fine, all the, function of all these other things is fine. And then they came back and said, your iron's really low. Now, after I've been talking to a few people, my iron actually wasn't as low as I've heard other people's being. So anyway, I got a call from the doctor again, and she said to me, look, we need to find the reason for why your iron is so low, which was great, because initially she said, go have an iron infusion. But she said, but your age doesn't really coincide with what's happening for you and why you aren't absorbing the iron. So the fatigue, the heart palpitations, the shortness of breath, and the brain fog all came from the low iron. But the low iron was due to cancer. So, but we didn't know that at that time. So she then asked me one of the most important questions anyone can ask someone, especially a GP, was, where do you feel it is in your body? Now, she'd already asked me a heap of questions about my cycle, and I think that's generally the direction that GPs probably go in, and, that probably is quite an important thing to discuss and talk about. But something inside me was saying, I don't think it's that now. In terms of my cycle, it's not irregular or anything like that, but it could have definitely been that. So when I really thought about it, and I felt in my body, my gut literally screamed at me. I was just like, it's me. The food intolerances got worse and worse. So it was sort of, the usual breads, dairies, all of that stuff that really kind of perpetuated the pain. And so I started cutting those things out, and then it wasn't until when I started eating veggies and all of that stuff that I realised is happening even when I'm eating, foods that apparently are supposed to be really good for the gut and for the soul. And so I said to her, I think it's my gut. And so she booked me in to go have a colonoscopy and a gastroscopy. And so I went there on the 8th of May. It will never leave my memory. That date will always stay with me. And so I went there on the 8th of May, and I had the procedure and came out and was asked to see the doctor afterwards. And my friend came to collect me, because that's what's supposed to happen after you're, put under in anaesthetic. You can't just leave on your own. Someone has to be there. And luckily, my friend was there with me. And we were all set to kind of go, because the doctor was taking far too long. We'd been sitting there for an extra 20 minutes, and we really needed to go. So I kind of went up to the reception and said, look, we've been waiting a while. Can we go? She said, no, you have to say, doctor needs to see you. And I said, well, can't he just call me or give me something in a report? And the other thing as well was, when you go in, there's a consent form, and it tells you, it says if you have polyps, they'll remove them, and you sign consent because it costs extra. And same for if they find anything, they'll tattoo it. And again, that costs extra. So I ticked those boxes thinking nothing of it. And when I went to pay, there was no additional cost. So I thought, everything's fine. Went in to see the doctor. First thing he said was, and I actually really appreciate the way that he delivered this information to me, he said, there is a mass and it is cancer. A lot of people have said to me, how did he know straight away? But I'm, guessing that when they see cancer, it's probably feels and looks very different to them, to sort of other things. And they're probably, he's probably pretty big expert when it comes to actually identifying and seeing it. But he was so confident that it was cancer, and I literally just drifted off. I don't know what the conversation was after that. My beautiful friend who was with me basically asked a lot of questions for me, and I felt very comfortable in leaving when it sort of did land for me and I did process it. asking that information, asking more information of, how, when, what's going to happen next. Do I have to make any more appointments? Like what goes on? So basically he gave me all that information. I went away, and probably the worst part was waiting for 2 weeks to know what was going to happen afterwards. So just recapping, my symptoms were fatigue, heart palpitations, shortness of breath, brain fog, and a tummy ache. But not constantly a stomach ache. It would, come and go. And again, symptoms that can be connected to anything else. There was no other symptoms that we're told about when it comes to colon cancer or bowel cancer. There were no other symptoms. The extreme, there could be blood or all of that stuff. I had none of that at all. So again, just being really mindful that I just sat back and sort of let those symptoms roll with it, and just was like, I'm in burnout, I'm perimenopausal, I'm this, and I just had other reasons. Never in a million years did I think it was cancer. Never. So after the 8th of May, I waited 2 weeks, and it is excruciating to wait that amount of time, not knowing what's going on. What kept coming into my head was, is it everywhere else? I can't plan anything. I don't know what's going to happen. I need to have surgery. I don't know when that's going to happen. There was a lot happening. So I guess if you know anyone who's going through an experience like this, that is probably a really hard time for someone who has been given that diagnosis, or probably any diagnosis, when you're not given any more information, when you really don't know. And unfortunately, there's no one else that can tell you that information until tests are done and biopsies and things like that. So I just had to wait with the system, and I had to wait for somebody to tell me what the next step was. And the next step was to go have a scan. Again, had the scan, but I didn't get the results. So I had to wait for those results. And that's when I was then had an appointment scheduled to go see the surgeon who conducted the surgery. And again, you get some information, but you don't get all of it. And I suppose they kind of do that because he couldn't really tell me that much. And he couldn't tell me the stage, he couldn't tell me the gradient of it until I had the operation. But even then, I had to then wait. So I'm just over 2 weeks post-surgery. It's phenomenal, really, on how I feel and the way that I've been moving around. So I basically had what's called a subtotal colectomy, or colectomy, yeah. And so basically it means I have a little bit of my colon just on the left, and then the rest has just been plumbed in again in a different way. I don't have a bag, and at the moment I'm trying to see what my diet is. Basically they said, yeah, you can eat anything, but I'm not finding that I can eat anything. So I just have to adjust to that. But the whole point of me doing this live today was to really give awareness around the fact that, and I don't want, it's not like fear mongering, I don't want to scare anyone, but what I will say is don't take for what's feeling for you in your body, really listen to it. Don't take for what you see on social media of like, oh, it must be this, or it must be that, or it must be because of this. Like, go get it checked. Go get it checked out. That's the message for today. Because again, cancer does not run in my family. It's not something that I've ever thought would happen to me. Of course, we don't. And really listen to your body, what your body's saying. And the most interesting thing about this is when we look at things like The Body Keeps the Score and those kind of books, and we talk about how trauma and emotions store in our body. This is such a wonderful book. I know it's the wrong way around, but this is a metaphysical anatomy, and it's by Yvette Rose. And basically it's a big, huge book, dictionary of all the things of, problems that you can have, and obviously colon cancer's in here. And I really wanted to have a look at the metaphysical reason for colon cancer, and literally reading that, I could probably put it in my bio as to what's happened to me in my lifetime. So I'm just going to read the first couple of sentences. So those of you who do know my story, just take a listen. Anyone that doesn't, I think I've probably got it on my podcast, Relationships in Recovery. I think I speak about it in there as well. But here it says colon cancer. So the emotions, when we look at the emotions, when we look at the stuck emotions or the stuck trauma, this is what it says. You may have been made to feel stupid and inadequate at the expense of someone else's low self-esteem and bullying tactics. Influential people that feed off vulnerabilities and low self-esteem often target you. You have been blamed in such a way that caused you to fear making mistakes and being devalued. You were often at the receiving end of hostile love and emotional abuse when you expressed any emotional needs. So, not to say that, or blame or put shame on anyone. This is merely to say that was possibly repressed emotions. It was, trauma from experiences that I've had in the world. And so how did I have to look at it? Well, I had to make a relationship with this piece of me, just like I would any other part of me that works, that has been, that I found trauma in. And that, again, inner child work, shadow work, when we look at all of that stuff, that's what I had to do. I had to connect with that piece of me, because the cancer was part of me. It was part of my colon. So I had to go through this whole, thing of connecting with it. And I'm a very visual person when it comes to that, and being able to see it, and, I adorned it with all this gold and glitter and made it, and asked it what it wanted and what it needed. And the responses were really interesting. And again, just having that moment to connect with that part of me, that then removed a huge part of me. So I had to go again through this whole process of grief, of losing a part of my organ. So yeah, it's there's so much more that I will talk about on that, and I'll probably put it in a podcast episode rather than do a live. But from today, what I wanted to say is, please don't leave anything. Don't think that you're immune to stuff. Like, I know that sounds crazy, and I'm not saying that as a martyr or like anything like that, but that's what I did. I was like, I'm not going to see the doctor. I just, that holistic view is what I've taken, and I think it's really worked for me, obviously, but just please understand, listen to your body when it is talking to you, and don't think that there's I honestly went onto Instagram, and I saw this whole list, and it was a list of my symptoms, and then they were talking about perimenopause. And again, not saying that I'm not in perimenopause, and that's why I don't have some of those symptoms. But that wasn't the reason why I was having those symptoms. The reason was that I had low iron, and the low iron was a symptom of cancer. Again, not scaremongering. Don't want to scare anyone into that, but just really want to make you aware, because I was so lucky. It was on the brink of turning on into stage 3, which means it goes into the lymph nodes. And then obviously it makes it a lot harder to clear. But I think it's a really important topic. Again, listen to your body. If you're having symptoms, don't think that they're in your head. Please sit with it, feel it, understand, what time does it happen? Do lots of checks and things like that, but go see the doctor and make sure you get checked out. If you need to go, have a check, a camera here or there or whatever, please go do it. Like I say, I caught it in really good time, but I also do believe, because of that emotional part of it, when I look at that and see that aspect of the emotional side and the metaphysical side of the emotions held there in that space, it was like the cancer was healing me to understand that I am valued and I am loved, because the amount of love that I got from you lot was incredible. And I believe totally that it slowed it down. It slowed the cancer down and it stopped it from going into stage 3. And it also healed me in a way of realising I am valuable and I am worthy. So yeah, it's been a blessing and a hindrance all in one. But yeah, that's enough from me. I think I'll stop talking now, but I hope that this just gives some awareness to really listening to your body and seeing how it feels, and taking care of yourself. With that, lots of love. Take care.